Hello friends, welcome to my channel Sushant. Today we are at the next topic of the crash course on IQP, and today we are going to see the second theme with the isolated pawn on the queen file. So I will start with the game today and I will make the opening moves quickly till we reach the point from where we have to actually think. So d4, d5, it's a queen's gambit game. c4, e6, knight c3, knight f6, bg5, pinning the knight, be7, unpins, e3, castle, knight f3, nb d7. All this is pretty standard. Here rook c1 is often played and cd5 is also played. White goes bd3. This is Botvinnik white, and this line used to be one of its favorite lines that time. So d takes c4, bishop takes c4, and black goes c5, trying to break the white center. So castle, c takes d4, e takes d4. So this gets us to the typical isolated queen pawn, and white is aiming to use the diagonal a2 g8 in today's example. And in the yesterday's example we saw that d5 was the main idea. Today we will see black controlling the d5 square firmly, so this idea will be stopped, and white uses the weakness of the f7 square in this game. So we are seeing how the square f7 or f2 can be attacked. This is the second plan for the side with the isolated queen pawn. Black goes c nb6, controlling the d5 square. Bishop goes b3. Bishop can also be taken to d3, bc2, qd3 when the attack happens on the h7 square. In the upcoming lesson, we will see those plans as well. Knight bd5. Often now what happens is black plays nc3, and after bc the isolated pawn doesn't remain isolated. The c3 pawn becomes backward. So these are called pawn couple. When the pawn moves to c4, they are called hanging pawns. Island of pawns together, there are no pawns surrounding them. But with the pawn on c3, it's the backward pawn, they are called pawn couple. And with pawn on c3, d4 gets firmly protected. Although c3 is somewhat weak, the attacking chances on the king side become reasonably good when d4 is well protected. Here white could do the plan queen e2, play rook d1, rook e1. But Botvinnik goes with the move ne5, which is also very interesting. The knight immediately eyes f7. The rook on f8 will not be able to move in many cases. And the point is that see, bd7 will not be very good this time. Often see, if white is able to take on d5 and ed has to be taken, then the endgames with d7 bishop and knight on e5 and other minor pieces getting traded is highly favorable for white. So black goes nd7. He wants to trade the knight on e5 and also trade this bishop. So bishop take e7. Now queen cannot take, d5 would hang. So knight e7. Black pieces look really passive, and here queen e2. See, knight e5 would be a very bad move here. After knight e5, d, the rooks would occupy c1 and d1. Isolated pawn would be gone, space would be there. This knight would jump from e4 to d6. That would be a very good position. Even the knight sacrifices on f6 would be in the air. White would change the plan to bc2, queen e4 and attack the king side if knight e5 is taken. So nf6 and rf d1. Nicely played. The other rook goes to c1. And white will of course try to show that he wants d5. b6, rook a c1, bb7 and now f3. Very interesting move, to some extent an unusual move. This is not played very often, but the knight goes to e4 now, and after exchange fe, white would like to use his center. See, white has very nice space in the position, center is well placed. He can't play d5, but he is trying to put pressure along this diagonal. And here black underestimated the threat. He just played rook c8. It's white to play. Can you spot what will happen now? White played the somewhat unexpected knight takes f7. Two variations are there. It is said that king f7 should have been played. See, very easy to say all these things when analyzing others' game, but understand the situation. Firstly, after queen e6, kg6, bc2 check, king h6, queen h3, nh5. It is said that the position looks okay, but it doesn't look okay, right? See, there is g4, h5 is weak, and nobody wants the king to be like this. So black didn't go for this. Another trouble would be, instead of queen e6, the move bishop e6. When after kg6, qd3, king h6, look at this position also after bishop c8, knight c8 and d5. Look at this position as well. Rook and 2 pawns versus bishop and knight, and the d5 pawn is quite annoying. Knight e4 is going to be there. So this position also, I think white is doing much better over here. Also there was the move ne4 fe. This is also good for white. Thus black chooses to play the move rook f7, which looks safer among the options. And here after queen e6, it turns out that the position is clearly worse. Let's see. Queen f8 almost forced. We can see that knight d5 won't help, because see, after knight d5, rook c8, the queen would be deflected, d5 would be lost. So queen f8, knight e4, threatening knight g5 and knight d6. So rook takes c1, and nf d5. If knight e4, then fe4, and we can see that rook f1 will also be a big problem. The rook is entering the c7 square also in that case. So that's why knight d5, and now comes knight d6. It's game over. Too much pressure on b7 and f7. Bishop a8 forced. And now what would you play as white? White in fact has two ways to win here. The difficult one is the line C. Knight takes f7, queen takes f7, rook c8 check, seemingly see giving up the piece. Knight takes c8, queen c8, queen f8 forced, and here white had to see the very strong qd7. See what a move. There is no way to protect d5 and the d8 squares both. So here see queen f7, which looks forced because see queen is attacked. So no time for bd5. The point after bishop d5, queen is pinned. So queen d5 allows queen e8 mate, and bd5 allows qd8 check. See what a tactic. And after queen f8, queen d5. But I think Botvinnik could have not liked to have a queen endgame here. So he went for the better option. He kept the black pieces passive. So he went with the stronger move, rook e1. And there is no defense to the threat. Let's see what was the threat. After g6, knight takes f7, queen takes f7. What would you play as white? See, it's the simple queen takes e7. See the interesting point out here. After queen takes e7, it's just re7. The knight is pinned. So white remains exchange up and 2 pawns up. And after knight e7, it won't be bf7, king f7, but the very strong re7. When see queen is attacked, queen b3 allows ab, and the only other move bd5 that allows white to do rook takes f7. And after bf7, which is almost forced, we have a king and pawn endgame, 2 pawns down. So black chose to resign over here. So this was our second lesson showing the attack created by bishop on the f7 square. The focal point of attack was e6. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Do let me know in the comments below. Thanks for your time.